My guest on this episode of Inside the SCCA is the manager of the program that, for many, is their first introduction to the Sports Car Club of America. Justin Barbary has been a coach at track night events. He's a coach for time trials, a multi-time trophy winner at the Tire Rack Solo Nationals. He scored a top 5 road racing finish at the Runoffs. And away from the track, he has gotten his leadership and organizational skills from being a 911 dispatcher in North Carolina. Justin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So you were the guy on the other side of the microphone when I was an EMT.
It could possibly have happened.
No one is better at getting things organized and done than dispatchers. I get that completely. So
we like most public safety officials find ways to work under pressure that just seem easy sometimes.
And there's no pressure when you're running race events, right?
No.
Anyway.
Motorsports events never present any pressure or issues at all.
Not at all. So welcome. Thanks for being here. And now I saw a little bio that I stole all that info from a year ago when you were named the interim head of track night. Are you still the interim or are you now the guy?
Well, I think we can probably say that I am the guy. I don't think the title has quite been updated on the SCCA page. I might have to get on somebody about that.
That may have been an older – it was a press release from when you were first named interim, and I didn't take the time to go look any deeper. So, yeah. That's how this club works, by the way, is a lot of times the interim is just hangs out there forever, and you're just the person doing the job. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. So tell me how you – because all of us have a story – and anybody who's listened to more than like one of the podcasts knows that I like to start with the story. So what's your story? How did you get involved with motorsports?
Well, as all things, there's a lot of details that we probably don't have time for. I think the best place to start is that in the late 90s, as I was doing my best to flunk out of college, I started working for a motorcycle dealership.
Oh.
And kind of got into that motorcycle world and then doing track days with motorcycles and that sort of stuff. And did that for a couple of years and then realized that at the pace that I was going, I wasn't going to survive.
Up next on Inside the SCCA, Track Night in America. My guest on this episode of Inside the SCCA is the manager of the program that, for many, is their first introduction to the Sports Car Club of America. Justin Barbary has been a coach at track night events. He's a coach for time trials, a multi-time trophy winner at the Tire Rack Solo Nationals. He scored a top 5 road racing finish at the Runoffs. And away from the track, he has gotten his leadership and organizational skills from being a 911 dispatcher in North Carolina. Justin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Up next on Inside the SCCA, Track Night in America. My guest on this episode of Inside the SCCA is the manager of the program that, for many, is their first introduction to the Sports Car Club of America. Justin Barbary has been a coach at track night events. He's a coach for time trials, a multi-time trophy winner at the Tire Rack Solo Nationals. He scored a top 5 road racing finish at the Runoffs. And away from the track, he has gotten his leadership and organizational skills from being a 911 dispatcher in North Carolina. Justin, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you were the guy on the other side of the microphone when I was an EMT.
It could possibly have happened.
No one is better at getting things organized and done than dispatchers. I get that completely. So
we like most public safety officials find ways to work under pressure that just seem easy sometimes.
And there's no pressure when you're running race events, right?
No.
Anyway.
Motorsports events never present any pressure or issues at all.
Not at all. Not at all. So welcome. Thanks for being here. And now I saw a little bio that I stole all that info from a year ago when you were named the interim head of track night. Are you still the interim, or are you now the guy?
Well, I think we can probably say that I am the guy. I don't think the title has quite been updated on the SCCA page. I might have to get on somebody about that.
That may have been an older. It was a press release from when you were first named interim, and I didn't take the time to go look any deeper. So, yeah, that's how this club works. By the way, is a lot of times the interim is just hangs out there forever, and you're just the person doing the job. So, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So, tell me how because all of us have a story. And anybody who's listened to more than like one of the podcasts knows that I like to start with the story. So what's your story? How did you get involved with motorsports?
Well, as all things, there's a lot of details that we probably don't have time for. I think the best place to start is that in the late 90s, as I was doing my best to flunk out of college, I started working for a motorcycle dealership.
Oh.
And kind of got into that motorcycle world, and then doing track days with motorcycles and that sort of stuff. And did that for a couple of years, and then realized that at the pace that I was going, I wasn't going to survive in good shape for very long in that environment. So in the early 2000s, I started playing around with cars, and the rest is history. I like to tell people that I haven't fallen off my car yet, which is a really good sign, which was not the case when I was with motorcycles. So my body thanks me for the transition.
Yeah, I bet. It's like when people ask me, I'm from Wisconsin, why I moved to California, I tell them because I don't have to shovel sunshine. So it's everybody has their reasons for doing what they're doing. So what was your first car that you played with?
So the first ever new car that I bought that actually ended up becoming a car that I autocrossed was when the Mazda Protege 5s first came out. I thought they looked really cool, but I liked the 4 doors and hatchback style, so it was kind of still utilitarian. I could put a hitch on it and pull a motorcycle trailer around if I needed to. Found a local friend who was doing some autocrossing in a turbo Miata, and was actually one of in the leadership role for one of the local independent autocross clubs. And he said, "Why don't you bring that thing out and see if you can take it around this autocross course once?" And after the first run, I knew that was what I was going to do for the foreseeable future. So it took 60 seconds behind that wheel at an autocross course, and I was hooked.
And that's the story for most club members, many club members my age, because back in the day, we didn't have track night in America. And the easiest, least expensive way to, kind of play with cars, and I actually think it still is, because last I checked, the price to get into a track night is usually 150, 160. What is the cost?
I think we average around 160, 165.
Yeah. And most solo events, your local events, you can get into for under $100, and sometimes
easily,
it's a lot under $100, depending on whether you're a member and all that kind of stuff. So I really do think the getting involved in solo is less expensive than getting involved in track days. Now, if you want to be competitive in solo, because we actually time ourselves and there's trophies at the end, you can spend a buttload of money racing solo.
You can be as competitive as you want to be, or you can have as much fun as you want to have.
Yep.
You just pick your road and do what you can afford to do.
For some people, one is expensive, and for some people, the other is not. So,
yep.
So from there, you ended up, I see you've got a couple of solo nationals and that you've done really well in, and then you've also gone to the runoffs. What did you race at the runoffs?
We ran in B-Spec in 2019 at Virginia International Raceway, which is basically my home track. I live kind of in the middle of several tracks, but that's the one that I visit the most. So, and had a really great time at the runoffs. Cool. So that was a fun year. Cool.
Yeah, I lived in Charlottesville for a while, so VIR and Summit Point were my 2 points to go to when I was living there, and got to both of those tracks a lot when I was there for the time I was there. So VIR is great, and I was there for the first event when they reopened it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And I wasn't competing. I don't know if I was there as a journalist or I was there as a flagger. Or maybe I was there as both, probably. That would be a better idea. But anyway, so I was there for the reopening of VIR. And I didn't know really any of the history because I'm not old enough to remember VIR before it closed down. But I'm real happy it came back. So it was pretty awesome to be there for that. But so now you have gotten yourself messed up with the national. I mean, now you're part of the national office. And and so how did that whole thing come about?
Some of it through Autocross Connections. I've been doing the solo national tours and solo nationals for probably about a decade, or close to a decade at the time, and had become, very good acquaintances with John Krolowitz and Hayward Wagner and, several people that were very much at the ground level of creating the track night program. Sure. Several years ago, and just got a call one day from John Krolowitz and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming down to Atlanta Motorsports Park and helping me coach an event?" And kind of the rest is history at that point. Luckily, you mentioned being a 911 dispatcher, the schedule that I worked left me with some availability during the middle of the week, and track night events are typically on weekdays. So it was pretty easy for me to find the time off to go down there and see what all this was about.
Nice. So a couple of things I want to accomplish here, and because, we go through all the programs, and I think there's two discussions to be had here about track night. One is if you're a newbie wanting to go to a track night, what do you do? How do you make it happen? And we'll talk about that. But there's also the idea of for club members who've been longtime members to understand a little bit about what happens, the concept behind it, and kind of there's a couple of myths out there that are probably worth going into, and you can either debunk them or tell me they're right or not. But and Hayward and I have talked about this a little bit as well on an earlier podcast, but we'll dig it into a little bit more. So let's do the first part about kind of like what the track night is and why we do it. So let's just start right from the beginning for those who might have never attended an event. What's a track night in America?
Well, I think the easiest way to explain it is we are a afternoon into evening, sort of half day, come to the track, enjoy your car on a track program. Very low stress. We try to make it as easy and accessible and affordable as possible. Anybody with a driver's license, a car that can pass some basic safety stuff, and a helmet can come out and drive their car on a track.
Right.
That's really the core of it is that we operate at a very condensed amount of time, which is excellent for people who have other priorities during the day and, maybe can't commit to a full day or even, with some of the other programs, a full weekend is what they would have to commit to, to do something like this. We offer it up in a nice, tidy little package. They can come out, dip their toes in the water, so to speak, see if they enjoy it. If they do, we hope to get them back for multiple events and possibly move them on, into other programs that the SCCA offers for driving on track. So
for those who've been around the car performance driving world for a while, I kind of tell people it's like an HPDE light. It's not a full day or a full weekend. There's very, there's a lot of it's a friendly event. I went to one a year or two ago. I helped out at one at Auto Club Speedway, and I just was very impressed with how laid back everything was. Registration was literally, it felt a lot like an autocross. It was a table in the parking lot. There were maybe 100 cars that showed up, and it was on a Saturday because we do things weird out on the West Coast. We're the West Coast. We don't do anything normal. But and it was very laid back, lots of different demographics of people who were showing up, which I found to be awesome because our club is primarily white in many cases, and we had people of all different demographics show up, which was fantastic, and I thought that was great. Everyone felt welcome. There were some really awesome cars there, and there were a couple of bone stock Honda Civics and one guy showed up with a Volvo station wagon, and he was the coolest guy to watch on the racetrack. And so it was very kind of laid back and cool about it. And one of the questions I get a lot from club members, longtime club members, is why? Why do we need track night in America? I want to get your take on it and see what your thoughts are. Why do we need this?
I think the way to approach that is, for most of the SCCA, and I was very much in this world, being hyper competitive in autocross and doing some road racing, going to the runoffs, is that there almost needs to be an extra C in the acronym. It's the Sports Car Competition Club of America. And that's how a lot of people have found the club and how a lot of people experience the club. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed every moment that, I'm competing wheel to wheel or, on the clock at an event. But there's this other population of car enthusiasts out there who, they're not in that competition environment. They just like to, for lack of wearing the term out, having fun with their cars.
Right.
And I think that's really what Track Night tapped into, is that there are car enthusiasts out there that were not finding a home in SCCA, and we've been able to bring them into our family and give them a place to just play with their car.
Right. I mean, even a solo event can be intimidating if you're not going with someone who is a solo person, if you don't have a mentor to kind of hang out with, or and there's none of that at a Track Night of America. There's nothing intimidating about a Track Night in America event. And I love that. The other thing I hear people say to me often is, well, why aren't we getting these Track Night in America people to come work our road racing events? Why are we not converting Track Night people into larger, not larger, but, getting them into other parts of the club? Because it does seem to me like that doesn't happen very often. And maybe you know better than I do. Maybe there's better statistics that I just don't know about. But I only have heard of a handful of people who have been to a Track Night event who have then showed up at a racetrack saying, I want to be, a corner worker or anything at all. Or even people who've come to race who said, oh, we started with Track Night in America. Do you have any idea what that kind of conversion rate is?
Yeah. So two-part question there. I think when it comes to pulling volunteers for other track events out of the Track Night participation, it does happen from time to time. I have asked specifically at track nights that I've been working at that were kind of butted up against a road race weekend, hey, would anybody like to hang out at the track for the rest of the weekend and help us, flag or do whatever? And we've gotten some takers for that. Mm-hmm. But I do think it stems back to just the environment of, people that come to track night. For the majority of them, this is how they experience the motorsports world. It's just them in their car on the track, and they don't expand out any farther than that. The other question about, how we can maybe pivot and do something more with that has really been one of our main focuses for this season. After I took over, was getting the regions more involved, from a regional leadership level, and their volunteers to come out and be involved in the track night events that are local to their areas. Because, really what we're trying to do, if we're asking for people to come from track night participant into a volunteer role for other events that the SCCA puts on, those are regional events. And it really helps to put names to faces, to have that connection with the people that are in the region and running those events, and creating that relationship right there. So that's one of the things we're really working on, and don't have the data yet. We're hoping to see, some fruit from that, but we're working on it.
Thank you for blasting the door wide open for the rant you're about to hear. And I'm not going to rant at you. I'm going to rant at all of the people who've asked me the question, why aren't the track night people coming to help us out at the racetrack? My response is always, has the region ever gone to a track night? Have region members ever gone to a track night, either to participate or just to walk around and talk to the people there and say, hey, if you're having fun here, we do this thing called solo and we do this thing called road racing. And if you'd like to be involved, you can do that and shake hands and put it exactly what you're saying. And the answer is almost always no. The regions, I get the impression, are often in a position where that's a national thing. They come and do their thing, and they've got their way of doing their thing, and we don't go to it. And I'm like, why not? Or if nothing else, give the track night people 100 flyers to give to the people as they come in with information on how to find your website and who to call if they want to get involved. And when I went to the local track night, that wasn't there for my region. And I'm not just pointing on my region. I'm going to guess that's the case for a lot of regions, right?
It's yes, I would agree with that. We do a little bit in our drivers' meetings to try and talk about the local region, and hopefully we've got somebody that is there as a representative for the local region. That that happens sometimes, and there are places where the region leadership is actually helping us put on, as part of our staff, the local track night events. So there's some of that going on. But we can always use more of it. Like you said, just walking around paddock, talking to people, people want you to be interested in what they're doing, not just directly pushing them to something that you're interested in. Right. So I would recommend that if regions do want to come out and participate, just come out and treat it like it's cars and coffee. Treat it as just I'm coming out to hang out in paddock and talk about cool cars or cool things that I see. That's how you get the track night participants interested in maybe doing other things. You have to be invested in what they're doing, and hopefully they will find some investment in what you're doing later on.
And I get it. As a volunteer myself, our volunteer numbers are dwindling, which means we're all doing more than we ever did, and we have limited time as well. So spending another night at the racetrack for this type of thing might not be highest on your list of priorities of things to do. So I understand, regions are really strapped for volunteers. It's even more so now that 20% of the people do 80% of the work.
Yeah, so, and I would always, ask, exactly what you said. We can't, expect to have people have the availability for time. The track night is on the perfect night for them to get away from their family or their work or whatever and come out and spend time with us. But if you can get me a copy of your schedule coming up or what you need, or just get some information to us, we can do a little bit of the legwork for you when we're talking in our drivers' meetings and that sort of stuff. We're here to help the regions in any way we can. The regions are the lifeblood of the SCCA, and we're not here to pull participants away from them. We're here to try and funnel more participation to them. So anything that they can do to help us get that information to the right people and send them to the right places is beneficial.
Yeah. And I always tell, drivers who've got crew members, reward your crew members and buy them a track night. Give them there's ways to do that. And what a great way to say thank you to the guys and gals who come out and help you on Saturdays and Sundays. Say, hey, take your car and go have some fun. And they're going to tell other people what they do on other weekends. It's a big circular thing. Yep. So, all right, I think we've gotten all of the track night myths out of the way. Let's do this. Let's head to break real quick. When we come back, I want to switch gears and talk about, I'm going to play newbie. I've never been to a track night. I don't know what's going on. And you're going to walk me through the process of getting my car on the racetrack, all right? Let's do that. When we come back, you are listening to Inside the SCCA on the Racing Wire Podcast Network.
I'm Dorsey Schrader, and when I'm on my way to a race, I'll listen to the SCCA podcast Inside the Short Bus.
Would you like to hear Inside the SCCA live from the Runoffs? We're planning to do 9 shows from the Runoffs, and 8 of them will be live. We'll start each race day with breakfast from the Runoffs. During lunch, we'll do our version of a halftime show, and then we'll end the day with Runoffs After Dark. If you have a racing-related business, this is a great opportunity to reach your customers or congratulate them on getting to the big show. Maybe wish them luck. And drivers, here's your chance to thank your sponsors. Rates are reasonable. For more info, send an email to Racing Wire Network, that's all one word, @gmail.com. If you lock in your ads by July 1st, there's a 10% discount, and we'll have that email address again in the show notes.
Welcome back to Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Bielanski. Joining me on this episode is Justin Barbary. He is the guy who runs Track Night in America for SCCA, and we're talking today a little bit about what track nights are and what happens and how to do them. Justin, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you.
So let's get to the nuts and bolts of doing a track night. First of all, where are track nights typically done?
So we use about 34 different tracks across the country. We've got them in all 4 corners in the central part of the nation. So there's going to be one near you just about anywhere you live. We run at some fairly big name tracks like Lime Rock and Daytona, VIR. But we also hit some gems of club tracks like Carolina Motorsports Park, Nelson Ledges, Gingerman, and also some IndyCar tracks like Portland International and NOLA.
Nice.
So we got options.
Nice. So if I am listening and I want to find an event to go to, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the best place to start is obviously the website. That's where you're going to find all the information that you need to get started. It's tracknightinamerica.com. Nothing fancy. Mm-hmm. And I have to give a huge shout out to the people that set up our website and did this job before I arrived on the scene. They have made it extremely easy to figure out everything you need to know about how to get involved. If you're on the website, there is a button right at the top that says Start Here. Yep. And right underneath that, it says what to expect, what to bring, need to know. It's kind of laid out there on a nice silver platter. We don't get a whole lot of questions, based because we've got all the information, pretty nice and wrapped up with a bow on it right there.
Right.
But, we also have a customer service, jack@tracknightinamerica.com is the email address. You can email him with any questions, and we try to make it as easy as possible. We're here to help.
So, we bring most people bring their personal cars. I don't think you allow competition cars, right?
We do have a waiver system.
Okay.
We don't have a problem with people bringing out a fully SCCA jargon GCR legal race car.
Okay.
What we prefer though is that car is being driven by, as you said earlier, a crew member,
right,
or a family member, a novice driver, that sort of stuff. We try to avoid having fully competition race car drivers in their race cars, on track with, what is majority a street car event.
And I'll be honest, with anyone who would think about doing that, who is a licensed, you're going to be bored.
And I'll probably be a little bit louder than
it's
that.
It's not the event for you. So, I mean, in that regard, right?
It's a different environment.
Yeah.
So it's a different environment. Yep.
And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not, it's just the way it is. It's built for people who are just putting their big toe in the water. So are there any cars out there that I can't bring?
So we do have some rules about convertibles.
Okay.
Typically, most of the convertibles built after 2006 are okay because they have some sort of factory rollover protection. Anything built before 2006 as a convertible, we would need an approved roll bar in. And there's some verbiage on the website about what is an approved roll bar and what needs to happen there. And then other things like it needs to be wider than it is tall.
Right.
It's pretty obvious. Very, very similar to what Solo and Time Trials specs is what we have as well. So if you're familiar with or have a car that you've used in other programs like Solo, it's is probably going to be perfectly fine for track night.
So most sedans, most coupes, most hatchbacks should be fine.
Yep.
If you want to bring the station wagon or the SUV, that's going to have, you have to pull out a tape measure and do a little bit of checking on that.
Yeah, exactly. And as the vehicles get a little bit more weird, I always like to talk to our participants that may be thinking of bringing something like a bigger station wagon or maybe even a lowered pickup truck or SUV or something like that. It may pass the rollover specs, but then you have to start thinking about, is that vehicle, are the brakes really good enough to hold up for, an hour's worth of track time? So there are some things to consider when you're talking about bringing a street vehicle out to a racetrack. But for the most part, if the vehicle's safe and, you've got a helmet and a driver's license, we're ready to rock.
All right. So I've got let's say I got a hatchback. Live from Virginia International Raceway, this is Inside the SCCA. Presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. This is something that, those are words I never thought I'd say this year, Greg.
Vintage, no.
Or
we're here at the Runoffs.
And we're live from the Runoffs. Breakfast at the Runoffs. I am just extremely happy to be here.
As I am as well.
Happy to be sitting here next to you.
Thank you.
We're going to do this for 9 shows over the next 3 days.
3 days.
It's all kind of a blur to me, I'll be honest. Flew out here on Tuesday night on a red eye. Spent all day yesterday with our great guy Brian Donati, who's helping us out here to put the whole set together. We'll maybe show some pictures of this later in the week. But when I started this podcast back in October, these are the last 9 shows of the first season of Inside the SCCA. When I started this podcast back here in what was it, October of last year, the first episode, I said I wanted to put the podcast live from all of the different SCCA events, the runoffs, the solo nationals, the time trial nationals, all that kind of stuff. And I thought it would take a good year or so, or 2 or 3 maybe, to get to that point. And people started talking. You all started watching or listening.
Listening, certainly.
We went from 100 listens the first episode. I think we've crossed over 30,000 listens.
Really?
On the podcast now. And I was just blown away by the level of interest and the people who've said nice things and the guests who've come on. We've had 50 plus guests over the first year, and it's because of all of that we are here right now. And I'm just so beyond excited, and I got a little butterflies in the tummy. This is the first time we've done anything live with a video feed. That's never happened before on the podcast. And little hint. We may be taking all the podcasts live on video going forward. There might be a little bit of time for me to get back from the runoffs and decompress from all of this.
You and me both. This is day 9 for me now.
Yeah.
I have been living the total Sports Car Club of America experience. I've worked grid. I've been preparing. I've been the last 3 days calling qualifying here at the runoffs. And frankly, today and right now at a little bit after 7 a.m. Eastern time, first time I have been just nervous because this is something completely new for me as well, and I'm hopefully going to make it through the next 3 days without needing some help.
Well, and I know you've been nervous. You've been this morning like a bride on her wedding day.
Yes.
Should we do this? Should we do this? Am I sitting? Am I not? And it's kind of it's like pseudo TV because it's YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
but hopefully a lot of people watching on SCCA.com or SCCA's YouTube channel, Racer Magazine, and of course the Racing Network as well. So
we've got some great partners, as you can see from the set. I think it's pretty obvious that our our main presenting sponsor is Goodyear Racing Tires.
Yes.
Can't thank them enough for being on board. Without them, this whole thing doesn't happen. And we've got a bunch of other great partners that you're going to hear about over the next nine shows over 3 days. So let's tell everybody a little bit what we're going to do here.
Sure.
So each day we've got Breakfast at the Runoffs. That's going to be a show where we talk about the what's coming up for the day. We're going to talk about who the poll winners are, the poll sitters, all of that kind of stuff. That's the morning show. The noon show, hopefully, we'll get some drivers who won races, some gold medals. We'll get some, maybe we'll get the Michael Phelps of the Runoffs in here with the 10 gold medals. We've got a couple of those people here.
Yes.
So we'll get some of those folks to come up. And then the evening shows is going to be kind of a free-for-all. We're going to have drivers who've won. We'll talk a little bit about tomorrow. We're hopefully going to get some of our friends from the SCCA National to come in and talk with us. That could happen on any of the shows. We're going to hear from all of our sponsors. We've got some great people, and I'm not going to name them all because I'm going to forget someone. And if I forget someone, then they're going to be mad at me. But so we're going to have a bunch of folks come on and talk with us about why they're involved with the SCCA and why that was important for them to do, and that's kind of the deal. And we're going to do that for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Each day we're going to give out some cool Inside the SCCA awards to some very deserving people. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. We've got some partnerships with Spark Virtual Racing. That's later in the show. You guys are going to love this.
Love this.
And it's a pretty cool video that we put together. And ever heard of the Stig?
Yes, perhaps.
You're familiar with the Stig?
I've got a shirt that says "I am the Stig."
Yeah. Well, we know that you're not.
That is true. Many people know I'm not.
While we don't have the Stig, we have the Twig.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm intrigued.
You should be. So here's the story of the day.
Race that was here right after the track reopened in 2000, where they had these torrential downpours. And there's this great photo, and this was a regional race, this great photo of an ITS Alfa Romeo Milano having gone off at turn 1 and then having to send a pontoon boat out to get the driver because the water from the Dan River, which encircles a portion of the track, can, depending on how much rain there is, come right on up. But there are also parts of this track where, and we'll use as example what's known as left hook, turn
Okay.
4 over here, where there are no places that haven't been polished down in the dry, and
Sure.
when it becomes wet, it becomes quite treacherous. But there are definitely some rain lines around here. You just have to know them, and unfortunately, I think the majority of the drivers here haven't had that opportunity.
Right. And, and the first drivers who go out whenever it rains, I don't know if it's actually arrived yet. It looks like it has. Is that it's that first group of guys on the racetrack are going to have that oily surface that you get right after it rains for
It
the
all
first
lifts
time.
up. Yeah.
And it's always funny because I live in LA and it rains like once every 6 months. And, the wrecker companies and the auto body stores shops are like, when it rains, they're like, yes, here it comes, because
It's like for me, snow in Charlotte.
right, because nobody knows what to do in the wet. And we get that oil that comes up on the highways, just like we're going to get here. So the first session of the day, the first race of the day, and maybe the first couple of races, until that oil gets wiped off, are going to be really, really slick. And our first race of the day
Formula
is
500.
Formula 500, and they're not a typical radial tire class.
No.
So, and we were talking with Jay from Goodyear last night. This is going to be a rain tire type situation. Do these drivers have new enough rain tires? If you've got rain tires on this kind of racing, folks, if they get used once every 2 years, they can be hard as a rock and you're
Yeah.
not ready for it. So lots of things go into play there. Does the driver have enough of a budget to be able to have new enough rain tires to be able to have them be, because rain tires need to be kind of soft to
Sure.
work.
Absolutely.
And because there's no temperature in the track. So that's going to be a storyline that we go through today. And apparently through the entire weekend, probably. I'm looking at everything. We might get dry out a little bit on Sunday.
Sunday afternoon,
It
yes.
looks like that we might be okay on Sunday because it's come on shore pretty quickly. But that's what we're dealing with. We've got 4 classes this morning, and we're going to go through the running order here later in the show on the starting order for some of these classes.
Sure.
But our classes today are Formula 5, Touring 1, Formula F, and GT1. Kind of, if you look at the SCCA, and for folks who might not be familiar with the SCCA, this is a smattering of what the SCCA is. You've got one of your big bore sedan classes. You've got one of your classic Formula cars classes, Formula F. T1 is what you can get off the showroom and go race.
A very expensive car off the showroom and go
Sure,
race, but
sure.
but absolutely, and of course, then your silhouette-bodied, in some cases, ex-Trans Am cars, in some cases, current Trans Am cars, and in some cases, GT3 cars out there. And when I say GT, I'm talking about FIA GT3 as opposed to SCCA GT3 cars. That the big ground pounders,
Exactly.
for the most part, which that should make for a very interesting race for the second year in a row in the wet. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, because we had an amazing strategy call last year in GT1 to crown a national champion, and we may be seeing the same type of weather conditions this year here at VIR.
Exactly. So here's our schedule for the whole day. Once we get to lunch, now I want to let people know before we get to break here, the lunch and the evening shows don't have a hard start time because
Right.
we're racing, and racing doesn't always end on schedule. So we're squeezing our noon show in during the lunch break here. We think that's going to happen around 11:45. That's what it's scheduled for, but it could happen a little bit later than that. It won't happen earlier. I can guarantee you that.
Definitely not.
So tune in to the stream around 11:30, and we'll try to give some updates on the timing. So we've told everybody who the morning races are, who's racing this morning. The afternoon races are E-Production, Spec Racer Ford 3, which is one of the largest classes here in the SCCA.
I believe 44 cars went out for qualifying this week.
Super Touring Under, which is our Super Touring slow class.
Actually, no.
No,
The high,
STL is
and I wouldn't call them slow, but production-based cars, forced induction, lots of changes to these super touring cars. It should be a very interesting race with a large smattering of different types of chassis.
Right. Formula X is supposed to start around 5 o'clock. And I'm sorry, I skipped Touring 3. Touring 3 is at 4 o'clock. Formula X around 5 o'clock. And then at 5:45, if all goes well, Runoffs After Dark. So and again, that's also kind of time determined by when the racing is over. So we don't want anybody tuning in to watch us when they could be tuning in to watch racing. But then
No.
again, who would do that?
Not me.
Nobody in their right mind would do
I'm going to be busy. I don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. So let's do this. Let's head to break.
Okay.
When we come back, an exciting young driver, Cameron Reed, will be with us. She's going to be with us to talk a little bit about how her day is going to go. We're going to do that when we come back on Inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. Stay with us. Decades of sports car racing success comes from Goodyear Racing Tires' dedication to grassroots motorsports. Too many trophies and championships to count, and a commitment to continuing that tradition fuels continued tire development. From the professional levels of motorsports to the pinnacle of amateur racing in the SCCA, Goodyear Racing Tires are made for winning trophies. Follow @RaceGoodyear on Facebook or scan the QR code. Goodyear Racing is more driven.
Sentinel by Candelaria Racing Products is a comprehensive motorsports video system, incorporating live streaming, local recording, picture-in-picture, flag status, leaderboards, data overlays, and more. Perfect for endurance racing, sprint racing, and HPDE, Sentinel includes everything you need to get started. With the ability to control the live feed from the cloud, and GPS Auto Start will never miss an on-track moment. What are you waiting for? Get your Sentinel today.
All right, we're back live here from the Runoffs inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. I'm Brian Bielanski. Gregg Ginsberg here with us. And also, we have with us Cameron Reed. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Bright and early. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in so early. We know you've got an early race today, and we wanted to make sure that this doesn't impact your preparation for today's race. So thanks for coming in so early this morning.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
is it racing? Is that what I need to get my teen to do to get my teen out of bed before noon? Because my teen wouldn't be here at this hour.
Yeah, I mean, if I was at home, can't say I'd be getting up this early.
Okay.
But we're at the racetrack, and we do have a race coming up here pretty soon, so we're up anyway. It's
Yeah.
fine.
There you go. So Cameron is driving a Formula F. So she's going to be third race of the day, driving the 09 car, and very interesting. I met you and your father. Actually, I met you on Saturday, but met your father on Friday evening when y'all were loading in. Had to give him hints on how to get to the Charlotte airport quickly to come pick you up on Friday evening. But he was giving me a little rundown of basically, I don't want to say why you're here, but how you're here and how the decisions were made for you to come to the runoffs. Now, you've only been racing in Formula F and just out of go-karts for a very short time, correct?
Yeah, so I've been racing go-karts since I was 9 years old, and earlier this year we bought a Formula Ford out of Canada. We bought that in early February, and then we started kind of running that throughout the year, and we got pretty lucky, I should say. And
Well, I mean, don't chalk it up to luck. You've picked up a couple wins and a couple podiums so far this year, right?
yeah, we've had some nice runs here and there, and we made our way to the top of the Super Tour points and decided to come and experience the runoffs for the first time.
Yeah. So Cameron is, I guess, started out racing. Was it at Motorsports Crescent? I believe was your first couple of races in the Formula F. I know it's a long time ago, all the way back in late January or early February. But I guess first made a name for yourself at the Super Tour Circuit of the Americas, right?
Yeah, so I believe my first race was in Crescent. We did like a few test days before that, but
Right.
my first race was at Crescent, and we did pretty well, fairly well for our first time. And then kind of Coda, I think, was our breaking point. We got a lot of exposure that weekend for sure. We picked up 2 wins that weekend, and yeah, we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot for sure, but I don't think anything compares to this weekend and how much that we truly learned.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess as far as truly learning things, you've had a little bit of it's been a tough week for you, I guess, and it started off during the test days. went out on track for testing on, I guess, on Saturday, and had some I guess we'll call them mechanical issues with the car that you all had to work around, and I guess you got the chance to see, the family that is SCCA and the help that you get in the paddock here. When we talk a little bit about that.
So on Saturday, in round 3 of practice, we got into a little bit of a tuffle, right?
Yeah.
And the car became destroyed. We thought that we were packing up and leaving for sure. I mean, we just didn't have parts to put it back together,
Right.
and we didn't know the lead time of getting parts here, the expense of that kind of stuff. So we thought for sure we were packing up, heading back to Louisiana on the first day of the week. But we met some amazing people here at the track. Pretty much the whole entire class of Formula Ford helped put my car back together. Some people went above and beyond, and others just helped where they could, as well as finding and meeting people that are pitted around us that still are continuing to help us and making sure that I have everything I need to go fast and learn. And so we really appreciate that. We were able to put the car back together about 3 a.m. Sunday night, and we got on track Monday. And so we missed one day of practice, but I mean, we're still here, we're still running, and we're getting ready for the finals here in a little bit. So I don't think those people truly understand how much that means to us
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we were
So,
super surprised.
so what's it like when you come through the door? When you drive across the bridge to an event of this scale. It's as someone who doesn't have a ton of experience, as someone who's rather young. What was that like when you came across the bridge the first time and realized I'm at the national championships?
It was truly so surprising. Like as soon as we drove over, the amount of people that are in this pit is insane, and the level that these people are at. I mean, it's hard to even fathom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's considered to be amateur motorsports, but I think you'll find here that many of the programs are on a professional level. Now, as you have been going out and qualifying, I know I think we talked on after the first day of qualifying, after Tuesday, after you had gone out and run a couple of the test sessions on Monday, and the one thing I found to be very enlightening, and you don't necessarily hear this from a lot of drivers, is you were very excited because you picked up 2 seconds from one day to the next, and I think what I'm seeing is you've got a lot of perspective as to where you are here this weekend. Certainly you're battling for a national championship, but you are still in that development phase with this car and trying to learn. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So I think coming into this weekend, obviously our first priority was not to win the event. I've only been in the car just a few months compared to some of these guys who have been driving just as long as I've been alive. So
Or longer.
yes, so our first priority wasn't necessarily to win the event. Obviously, we would like to and want to be there if we can. But it also, I had to realize that I'm not going to be right there with them off the bat. I'm going to have to work hard, and I'm still learning the car. Every
Right,
session that we go out, all that really matters is that we're getting faster.
right,
And I think our main goal coming into the event was not only to win the Super Tour and get my name out there, and not just get that trophy, but also kind of set a name for myself and put myself out there with this being my first year in the car. Also, if I manage to win the Super Tour, I'll be not only the first female to ever win the Formula
that's
Ford
right.
class, but also the youngest person
Yeah.
to win the Formula Ford class. So I think it was also big about putting women out there and showing that, just because we are women doesn't mean that we're necessarily
Right.
anything less in
Absolutely.
motorsports.
So, we're giving away some awards this week, some Inside the SCCA awards, and you actually would qualify for 3 of them. We have a Women on Track award. We have a Perseverance award. You've definitely had something to persevere through this week, and you're under 25. So I'm not quite sure, but my guess is that one of those little plaques might be heading home with you after today, and that's pretty amazing. Now, we talked about this a little bit before we went on today. We have a little something happening outside coming from the sky today that you're going to have to deal with. It's going to rain, and how much rain racing experience do you have?
So I've never raced in the rain in the Formula Ford, but growing up in karting and growing up in Louisiana, we get rain quite a bit. So I do have some experience in a go-kart in the rain. Don't know how much that really correlates, but I guess we'll find out here pretty soon.
And here's something, though, that people might not understand is that it's not just for your type car, it's not just the rain, it's the wind also. A big sedan, the wind doesn't make such a big difference, but with a tropical storm, you not only get rain, you get some winds, and that's something that, have you had a lot of experience with wind and how that affects the car?
Not really. I mean, obviously, we raced early this year when it was super cold, so we did have a little bit of wind there, but nothing to what is expected to come here today.
What are you excited about?
I'm excited about just getting a race, getting a chance to possibly put my name out there and possibly win this super tour. Obviously, there's a lot riding on that. We have a lot of people in the class that are very high caliber, and you definitely don't look past them. But I think if I can get up there in the mid pack, I should be able to win this super tour, and hopefully I can pull that together.
So you're how old?
16.
I know I'm not supposed to ask a lady that
No,
question.
you're okay.
You haven't asked me yet.
Well, because never mind. So, 16. Now, I'm guessing you're in school right now.
Yes, sir.
Now, are your friends going to be like skipping class today to be watching your race? Are they going to get a big assembly? We're getting ready to go and put up the YouTube and watch the race back in Louisiana?
Don't think so. I don't really speak too much about my racing, to be honest. I mean, my friends know that I race. My teachers know. My
Right.
principal knows. But I don't think they truly understand the caliber of where we are this weekend and what's on the line. I didn't really speak about, I could win this pretty cool thing
Right.
that like might mean something. But no, I think hopefully they just go about class their normal day and don't get in too much trouble to watch me.
Well, they can watch the replay.
Yes.
So our first guest on the podcast way back last October was Jason Pribble. He is a Formula E driver, and he was at the Runoffs last year. And he was telling me that when he was racing go-karts and he told his friends about go-karts, it was like, everybody, they don't, kid karts, they think go-karts are just like what you do
Toys.
at the county fair.
Yeah.
Exactly. But when he showed up with a Formula E car at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, his friends all of a sudden went, man, you just went from cool level 1 to cool level 8. So I think if you talk with the friends and explain to them, and once they see this, you're going to go maybe from cool level 1 to cool level 8.
That would be pretty cool.
Nothing wrong with that. You probably have a bunch of people to thank.
Oh, tons.
And who would they be? This is your opportunity to thank all those people that helped you get here.
So I have to start with my parents, obviously.
Of
I
course.
wouldn't be here without them.
Dad's over there in the corner going, okay, she's got the first most important one checked
Check.
off. All right.
Charlie Swain and Iron Rock Motorsports. They're my team in karting and kind of have nurtured me up to this point. Mr. Chuck Swain, his dad, who's here with us this weekend, and he's kind of our little crew chief, and teaching us stuff every single weekend. And then I think most of all this weekend is everybody that's helped us get back on track, because we seriously would not be here without them. As cliche as it sounds, we were going home. So everybody, you kind of know who you are. I don't want to miss anybody, so I'm
Right.
not going to start naming them, but I've been trying to make my way to each and every one of them and personally thank them and make sure that they truly understand the magnitude of what they've done this weekend.
So after this, you take a deep breath. You get ready for what's next on Cameron Reed's calendar. You to do another year of Formula F. You're going to go somewhere else and race in a different class. What's the thought?
So I think next year we're going to try to focus on the Formula Ford, do a bunch more races in that. And hopefully when we come back next year, we have a car for the top 5 and we're not where we are. But I think we have a few more go-kart races. We might go to Vegas for their national championship, if the calendars align. But yeah, I think next year we're gonna focus on Formula Ford, kind of leave karting in the dust a little bit. That's its own crazy world.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. So yeah, I think right now we're just gonna keep focusing on this. Maybe in the future we move up, we try something new, but we're still learning so much in this. We're just not ready to move up yet.
Sure. Let's say you're 16. 10 years from now, where are you going to be? Or where do you want to be?
I want to be a paid driver in whatever I get paid to do. Just doing what I love and making a living.
There we go.
I don't really have a particular, I want to be in this car, I want to be with this team, because that makes my chances slimmer of
Exactly.
being paid. So
There you go.
ideally, I want to stay in racing, get paid, and do what I love and have fun.
Well, I am really excited for you.
Yeah, I am as well.
You're going to have an experience today that you'll remember for the rest of your life, and I think just enjoy it. Results are great, but the experience is even more important, and it'll give you something to build on, and it'll give you some confidence. And when you get in your car next year at the start of your season, wherever it is. So, Louisiana, what are your home tracks?
I guess NOLA would
NOLA.
be considered
right.
my home
Okay.
track,
What-
but they run NASA over there, so we aren't able to get on track with
Yeah, it's okay.
with open wheels. So we more go to MSR Houston, and that's about 4 hours for us, and then MSR Crescent's closer to 8, but I guess that would technically be our second closest track unless you head towards like Barber or Atlanta.
And you're out of Lafayette, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. That music means we're heading to break. Cameron Reed, appreciate it. Formula 4 driver. Potentially a future paid race car driver. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
All right. When we come back, we're going to introduce you to the Twig. That's next on Inside the SCCA at the Runoffs, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. Vintage Racers for Rescues. Racers rescuing dogs and cats from high-kill rural shelters and high-risk situations. Virginia and North Carolina have the third highest euthanasia rate in the U.S., and Vintage Racers for Rescues founders Robin and Dave Handy decided to do something about it. Vintage Racers for Rescues is a 501c3 charity that saves between 300 and 400 animals every year, nursing them back to health, finding foster homes, and eventually forever homes. VintageRacersForRescues.com. Use the QR code to find them on the web or to make a donation.
Corgi Sport is your one-stop shop for new and used mini parts and accessories. Whether it's driven on the street or on the racetrack, we have everything you need. From the small interior parts all the way to used and rebuilt motors. And with our sponsorship of the GPM race team, who travel to more than 30 tracks east of the Mississippi, we have a built-in delivery system that can save money on delivering large parts. Our line of Corgi Sport apparel celebrates the special bond between mini owners and their dogs. Mention this ad for a 10% discount at corgisport.com.
Racing for Heroes is proud to be a partner of Inside the SCCA. RFH is a nonprofit devoted to helping veterans suffering from the seen and unseen wounds of war through racing and our range of programs. RFH's programs include health and wellness, motorsports therapy, community outreach, education, and employment. Visit racingforheroes.org to learn more and find out how you can help. Cruise Associates is honored to have sponsored this message. Welcome back to Inside the SCCA, live from the Runoffs, breakfast at the Runoffs. We're getting ready for day one of racing action here. 26 national championships will be crowned over 3 days. This morning, we're going to crown 4 Formula 500, Touring 1, Formula F, and GT1. We're going to do all of that this morning. And here is the going to do right now. It is a ton of fun. We got together with Spark Virtual Racing. They put together some amazing simulators.
Which we have up in the pavilion over here.
Have up in the pavilion.
Wednesday night at the block party, all the racers got a chance to try out the latest scans of Virginia International Raceway.
Exactly. And the cool part is, we'll tell you why, because coming out of this video, people are going to want to go back up and try again. So let's do this. I want to introduce everybody to this this concept that we've got. We had a ton of fun doing it, and here we go. Let's check this out. A Rolex 24 at Daytona winner, a two-time champion of the 12 Hours of Sebring, a member of the prestigious Road Racing Drivers Club, and the Twig. Today we find the Twig at Virginia International Raceway, driving an MX-5 Cup car. The Twig is driving Spark Virtual Racing's S600. The S600 is a full-on driver training simulator. Unlike entry-level sim systems, this rig moves across all 6 degrees of freedom, making it a truly full-motion system that provides maximum feedback from the car. At $80,000, it's the ultimate training tool, providing a seat-of-the-pants feel that's remarkably close to what you feel when you are at the track. Let's find out what kind of lap time the Twig can lay down at VIR.
So we are out here at Virginia International Raceway in a Global MX-5 car here.
A Rolex 24 at Daytona winner, a two-time champion of the 12 Hours of Sebring, a member of the prestigious Road Racing Drivers Club, and the Twig. Today we find the Twig at Virginia International Raceway, driving an MX-5 Cup car. The Twig is driving Spark Virtual Racing's S600. The S600 is a full-on driver training simulator. Unlike entry-level sim systems, this rig moves across all 6 degrees of freedom, making it a truly full-motion system that provides maximum feedback from the car. At $80,000, it's the ultimate training tool, providing a seat-of-the-pants feel that's remarkably close to what you feel when you are at the track. Let's find out what kind of lap time the Twig can lay down at VIR.
So we are out here at Virginia International Raceway in a Global MX-5 car here on the Spark Virtual Racing Halo Motion Simulator here. Trying to go for a fast lap, and man, it's different, right? Driving this Spec Miata car, I can feel it really starting to understeer, move around a little bit more. You can feel the softness of this car, which is so much different than a lot of the cars that I've used to driving, the stiffer aero platforms of modern GT3 cars. They don't slide around as much. They don't have the pendulum effect of a soft MX-5 car here. Alrighty, think about hog pen. Let's get that good run out of here. All that curve. Rolling down, flat, right at the compression. There we go. Car sliding. Woo, every inch of the road there. That was a pretty decent exit. Get ready for a fast lap here. So I need that late aggressive brake into turn 1, looking for that 3 board. The 5th gear. Take a breath. Getting ready. Eyes are in. Boom, 3 board. There we go. Down to the apex point, back to full throttle, let the car be free out of here, go, 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 don't scrub speed. Thinking about turn 3, I want to be nice and light on the brakes to roll in speed. Nice and light, there we go, get down to that apex point, hey, what do you know, there we go, use all the road, that was okay, not great, into turn 4. Ooh, a little late on that turning point, not great, that's going to cost me some lap time. Alright, I need to be flat from here on out, all the way to turn 10. Let's use this curve here, to do a little release, a little early on the turning point, get it together, hands straight, and we're good. Whew, take a breath into the S's here. You need to be inch perfect, the first S, so everything else is just working out for me. There we go, that was a good one. Jump this curve. Keep that right foot on the floor, right foot on the floor. Come on. Alrighty, nice and light on the brakes, roll speed into turn 10, there it goes, float, 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 use every inch of the road, nice. Braking just past the 2 board, boom, hard on the initial brake. There we go, release enough, roll speed, there we go. Back to flat the apex point, get the run out of here onto the back straightaway. Could have used a little bit more speed through Oak Tree, but my exit was good, and that's my main priority here. Take a nice breath, down the back straightaway. Big brake zone coming up. I need to make sure I hit that apex point in turn 14, but I need to make sure I'm maximizing my brake pressure too. Nice and late on the brakes. Looking for that aero board. Let's go. Wham! Hard on the brakes. Get the car slowed down. Can I get it? No, too much speed, but I need to go, 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 go. Don't let it cost you. There we go. Alrighty, attack it through hog pen. Turn it in flat. Use this curve, light on the brakes again, car rotates, boom, back to full throttle, come on car, tell me I don't suck today with my lap time, please. And it's still not gonna be very fast. Come on, let's go, come on. Well, that's a little bit better.
All right, that's the Twig.
And I still don't know who the twig is, Brian.
Good. That's the plan. We don't want you to know who the twig is. So we spent a whole day shooting this video.
Yeah.
Had a blast doing it, and the twig's time now, folks. So here's the key to this situation. The twig's time was a 2:12, I believe.
0.91.
0.91, exactly. 2:12.91. And now what's happening is if you're here at the runoffs, you can go up to the pavilion, and they have a simulator all set up, and you can go try to beat the twig's time. I saw a bunch of people on Wednesday night racing the car. It's a Mazda MX-5 Cup car, and the fastest time I saw was like a 2:23 maybe, or a 2:22, and obviously that.
So the twig is an alien, as they say in the virtual world, right?
It could very well be, and we just had a blast. And at the end of the runoffs, we will, on Sunday night, when it's all over, we will identify the twig.
Okay.
So, and
it's not me, by the way. I can tell you with all certainty, it is not me.
It is, and it is not me either. So, very cool for that, and we appreciate the twig for coming on board. And I should do a behind the scenes video of how we did that, because that was also pretty cool. But and I got to tell you, the rigs, the $80,000 rig that he was driving, and the less expensive one. They're just really cool pieces of equipment, and the idea that they're using it for driver training versus sim racing, which you can absolutely sim race on it, but it gives you all that feedback that you really need to train yourself to drive a race car versus to train yourself to be a sim. So anyway, Spark Virtual Racing, check them out, and just had a ton of fun. All right, so we've got a few minutes here before we head to our next break. Let's go over our races for the first two races of the morning, and talk about our qualifiers. Our first race of the morning is going to be the
Formula 5.
There we
Formula
go.
500. There you go. And you got the drivers right there on the screen. And so James Wita looking to come out and hold that pole and take the win in Formula 500 here. And of course, last year in Formula 500, a race that ended under full course caution with the two drivers. Our reigning national champion, Sven de Vries, qualified third this year, racing Ryan Mayfield to the turn 5 flag stand, basically to the full course caution. But we'll see. It may be a little different. Then again, with the weather, you never know. It may end up very similar. But James Wita, he is your provisional pole sitter. Calvin Stewart, who's scheduled to start just to his left on the outside of the front row. It has not been the easiest week for him.
Okay.
He has had some mechanical issues. He's had some electrical issues. He's had some fire issues over the course of the week. As we were calling qualifying sessions, we saw his car being brought up for multiple what they call hardship laps over the course of the last 3 days. And I think as I saw them moving the car around and still doing some tweaks on it last night, I think they've got that car ready to go. And of course, you can't you just can't dismiss de Vries, who's going to be sitting on the inside of row number 2, and also pretty much this entire field in Formula 500 really stacked. But I think as we're starting to see a little bit of drizzle come down, it was funny as our guest Cameron Reed was walking out the door. She goes, "Oh my God, there's the rain!" I think it finally just hit her that it might be a very interesting day for many of our drivers. Regardless if you're on pole or on the first or second rows or even on the fifth row, I think you're going to have a chance across all of these different fields.
Exactly. And this is one of those classes that normally races on slick tires. And they're going to have to find out whether or not their rain tires are up to pace here.
Yeah,
so.
and of course, the other thing here in Formula 500, we call it Formula 500, but there are a lot of cars that have the 600cc motorcycle motors as opposed to the 500cc or so snowmobile motors. The 2-stroke motors versus the 4-stroke, and whether or not they are going to be able to deal with the weather, I guess, is another big question here.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to Touring 1. Here are our top qualifiers. This will be our second race of the day. Andrew Aquilante, who is a multiple national champion. I think he has 10. and he's going for 11, 12, 13, and 14 this weekend or something like
Yes.
that. He's racing in several classes. He is your top qualifier, and he's been putting out qualifying reports each day on the Facebook. I'm an old guy, so I call it the Facebook. And his reports have been very interesting. He's had to work on the car a little bit and get them all up to speed. But in the end, I think he qualified first in several classes. Then you've got Mark Bowden. He's our second place qualifier. Tim Myers will start third. On the outside of the second row, you'll get Joseph Gaudette. He's going to be in fourth place there. And then, of course, Hugh Stewart and Sandy Satullo round out your top three rows.
Yeah, and so this is another one where Andrew Aquilante taking and as you mentioned, many national championships. Also had a bit of a pole streak running as well. Coming into this weekend, Andrew Aquilante, second most pole positions of any driver in the Sports Car Club of America at the Runoffs, had 18 coming into the weekend. He's picked up another pair this weekend as well. He's got a little while until he reaches Jerry Hansen's 25, but he's pretty close. The one thing that that we'll have here is it's going to be a question of in T1 with the with Bowden running in the E46 M3. We're going to see him in a couple of, actually both drivers in different chassis and some other classes later in the week. Whether or not the E46 M3, with some of the advantages it has with braking and maybe some balance, whether or not Aquilante in the Mustang will be able to in the damp, if it is more than just a slight drizzle and they do have to go to wet weather tires, whether or not that's going to be a well-balanced car. Tim Myers in that V10 Dodge Viper, sitting on the inside of row number 2. Obviously, with him, with all the torque in that Viper, he's certainly, if the track gets damped, going to have to be the king of throttle modulation
right.
in order to make it around this track. But I think maybe. And he's sitting down there towards the bottom of our list, starting 5th this weekend. The dark horse, another BMW driver, Hugh Stewart.
Right.
Now, back here in 2019, we had a damp race, and Hugh, I think, surprised a lot of people when he went out, and he ended up, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to see, I believe Hugh finished on, I know he finished on the podium, obviously, but Hugh came home third that weekend, and again, maybe a precursor of things to come. Andrew Aquilante, second step of the podium in the damp. Mark Bowden was your national champion here in 2019 in the wet weather.
We got to get to break, but we've got three basic cars in this class. You've got the Corvettes, the Mustangs, and the BMWs. Do you think one of those has a distinct advantage in the rain?
I think the BMWs have the advantage, without a doubt.
Got it. All right, we're going to head to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about our third and fourth race of the day, and that'll round out our time before lunch. That's up next on Inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. Decades of sports car racing success comes from Goodyear Racing Tires' dedication to grassroots motorsports. Too many trophies and championships to count, and a commitment to continuing that tradition fuels continued tire development. From the professional levels of motorsports to the pinnacle of amateur racing in the SCCA, Goodyear Racing Tires are made for winning trophies. Follow @RaceGoodyear on Facebook or scan the QR code. Goodyear Racing is more driven. The Roadkeeper HD video and data logger was developed using our experience in motorsports, driving experiences, and beyond. It brings dual stream HD video combined with high-quality GPS data within reach of everyone at the track or on the road. Travinci Systems is an official Runoffs contingency sponsor, and it's not too late to sign up. On-site registration is available at the contingency desk in Tech. The Roadkeeper HD meets SCCA's requirements for forward-facing cameras. Take advantage of 2022 Runoffs pricing for the Roadkeeper HD, $324 plus shipping. That's $75 off. Offer is good through Christmas. All right, we are back. inside the SCCA, live from the Runoffs, breakfast at the Runoffs. Brian Bielanski.
Gregg Ginsberg.
Gregg Ginsberg. Having a good time here this morning. We talked about earlier, we talked about the weather, and every time I put up the radar, our audio dropped out. So it's going to be, all right, now the audio's working. Your director error, that's okay. I'll admit to it, but we got it now.
But I know we have a lot of people watching
Exactly.
because I've gotten about 20 text messages to tell me that we had this problem.
Good news. Unfortunately, the reason they're calling is because they were seeing this and we weren't talking about it. So this is live radar, National Weather Service. The rain has started, as you can see, and we can confirm that the radar is accurate because out the window here.
Yeah, as we look out over the porch here, over by turn 3 and over by the NASCAR turn at VIR, and it is and has been incredibly windy, but the rain is definitely starting to pick up and it's swirling around out here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day. It looks like now, with looking at this, that we're going to be wet all day here. So people are going to be ready to go and do their racing and get out there and have some fun and play in the rain, and we'll see how that goes. So.
Yeah, and so we talked about the first two race groups that we had to start the day off. I guess we've got 2 more before lunch.
Absolutely. So let's get to it. The third race of the day is going to be Formula F, and there are our top qualifiers there.
Yeah, and of course we had Cameron Reed in here a little bit earlier. She's in the field as well. Jonathan Kotick, who is your reigning national champion, he is on pole here this weekend. Tim Kotz, and I might also mention that Kotick has been, last year probably 2 years ago, was the 1 year that he did not win the championship. He's won 3 out of the past 4 years.
Okay.
So I think definitely a favorite here this weekend. Tim Kotz, Ted Burns, Nolan Allaire, who's racing this chassis in multiple classes this weekend, was very strong this week. And we've got some very young talent as well, and Porter Aiken, Trevor Russell as well, that are up towards the top of the field. And again, I will probably mention it another 25 times before the end of the runoffs, is that this rain may change things up just a bit, and we'll have to see, who can read a track.
Exactly. And it's looking at some of the areas of where the folks are from. And you're going to look at a driver like Jonathan Kotick from Atlanta Beach, Florida. I suspect he's done a little racing in the rain over the years.
I would suspect.
Trevor Russell from Tucson, maybe not so much. But you also may find some people from other parts of the country who are deeper into these fields, who can sneak up. You never know if the front 3, 4, or 5 cars have problems, slide off here or there. All of a sudden, you've got a guy or a gal who started in 2nd or 3rd or 4th place or 5th place or 10th place, who now finds himself racing for the podium.
Sure, absolutely, and and of course I mentioned that Jonathan Kotick having won the last 3 out of 4 years. Tim Kotz, who's going to be starting just his left on the outside of the front row, he is also a 3-time national champion, and you would expect you don't get to be on the top step of the podium 3 times if you don't have the ability to read a racetrack, to adapt, and then conquer.
Well, and that's what you get the top level of competition here at the Runoffs. You don't become a 3-time national champion, 4-time national, 10-time national champion without having some background and experience in doing this. So,
sure.
And even I find that drivers who maybe don't have a ton of experience in the rain, when you get to that level, you find a way to adapt.
Yes.
That's how you win races. That's how you get to the runoffs. That's how you win runoffs, is you adapt to the situation. So, all right, so let's go on now to
GT1. Big ground pounders.
Yeah, we call them the ground pounders. These are mostly Corvettes. Mustangs, Jaguars. I saw a Dodge Challenger. That was
there
cool.
are actually 2 Dodge Challengers in the field, both Jeff Hinkle and Adam Romito here this weekend driving the Chargers. David Pinterick, our pole sitter, driving a Riley and Scott, basically a one-off chassis, Riley Scott chassis, which is being prepared by Tony Ave Motorsports. Pinterick is our 2017 national champion. He was driving a Corvette a Cadillac CTS V at that event, but is in and has been in the Mustang for the last couple of years. Michael Lewis, always a threat in his Jaguar XKR. And of course, we've got Hinkle and Romito. Now, I think I
Did
talked
you
about.
grab a small award and a big award and bring it over?
Yeah, and so uh, I think a couple of things to look at. First off, last year at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, very similar conditions. It started dry. On the pace lap, it started raining, and it started raining hard. And our national champion last year in GT1 was Tom Herb, and he took the win because his team was sitting on the pit lane with wet tires. On the opening lap, he pitted in, changed tires, and the rest of the field was just very slow to react, and he took the win. He is somebody that we would want to look for this year, and he's driving a very different car this year. Last year, he was in a Porsche GT3 Cup car. This year, the Mercedes AMG GT3, again, an FIA GT3 car. Long wheelbase, well-balanced, great ABS brakes, which nobody else in the field for the most part is going to have. And he is definitely somebody that I would look for in the wet.
Definitely. And again, this is also a class that is typically on slick tires that are going to have to go to their rain tires. And I mentioned that
very big, wide.
Right. And I mentioned
tires.
That because a lot of our classes are on what resemble a regular street tire.
Well,
they have tread. If nothing else.
Usually 2 little sipes going all the way around, not much tread.
And those tires obviously would handle the rain a slight bit better than a straight slick tire.
Sure.
Not by much, but a little bit. And all of them have the option to switch to a straight-on rain tire. So, all right, we've got to get out of here at 8 o'clock. So we've got 5 minutes left in the show. And we get out at 8 o'clock, by the way, because that's when racing starts, and we're not going to step on the racing broadcast. We're working here all together, and I can't wait for racing action to get started. It's going to be a blast. But before we go, I want to talk about the awards that we're going to do here over the next couple of days. And we've got a couple of them here. Gregg's going to play what we call Happy Hands. He's going to hold the awards for us. If you would pick up the smaller one first and bring that over here. All right, so this is, and it's a little hard to see on television, but we're going to give away 4 of those today. All right, in 4 categories. We're going to give away our driver of the day in under 25, or 25 and under.
Correct.
We're going to give away our women on track driver of the day, our Veterans Challenge driver of the day, and we're going to give away our Perseverance Award. And we've already talked about a couple of drivers who are eligible for that today. And so those awards we're going to give away. Again, these are inside the SCCA awards, not SCCA official awards. And at the end of the whole weekend, we're going to give away this award. It's, again, hard to see on television. I'm going to get a screenshot of this.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even put it in front of my face.
Well, you can, but
anyway. Unfortunately, it doesn't hide me.
This is the G-Dub Henderson 2022 Award of Excellence. G-Dub Henderson was a longtime member, New York region. I believe he was RE at 4 point. He was flag chief. He wrote for Sports Car Magazine. Really an ambassador of the club. We lost him back in the early days of COVID, and a great loss for the club. And a dear friend of mine, probably my best friend. Full disclosure, and but when I wanted to come up with a way to give away the big award, couldn't think of anybody more appropriate to name it after than G-Dub. So at the end of the weekend, all of our award winners, there'll be 12 of them. We're going to pick one of those 12 to receive the G-Dub Henderson Award. 2022 Award of Excellence. And so here's the deal. If you and the one that we have a harder time identifying than any of them is our veterans out there. So if you are a veteran driver, or if you know of a driver who's a veteran, get on our Facebook page on the SCCA members official Facebook page. There's a post about the awards, and put the name of your driver in there who's a veteran, and let us know what class they're in if you can, so we can track the veterans drivers so we know who we can give the award to each day. It's not real hard to figure out who the women drivers are. We've got a nice list of the 25 and under drivers, and we know who the Perseverance drivers are, but the ones who are having the hardest time identifying are the veterans. So if you're a veteran racing this weekend, or you know you're a veteran, if you know a veteran, please get back to us and let us know so we can make sure we're keeping an eye on that driver to see which one we're gonna give the award to. And The Veterans Award is sponsored by by Cruise Associates. Thank you for doing that. The Women on Track Award is actually being sponsored by the SCCA Women on Track folks.
Women on Track folks, exactly.
I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping to get another sponsor so we could let them keep their money to do their thing, but they were nice enough and gracious enough to do that, and I love it, so thank you to them. We're going to have some of those folks on later in the weekend.
We will.
So that's going to be fun, and I'm really excited about giving away the awards. It adds just a little twist to it and all that other fun stuff. All right, so
I would say you're excited about the awards. I'm excited about 3 days of racing, which is just about to start here from Virginia International Raceway, a historic racetrack, and we're going to have 26 national champions by the end of it all.
You know, I was thinking about putting the radar back up, but let's not depress ourselves. It's raining. It's going to rain all day.
You'll see that in the race broadcast. No need to belabor the fact.
Right. And as we head out, I also want to make a big thank you to the club. Eric and Deanna and Dan Dennehy and a bunch of other people, and Kristen, all these folks who have helped us get on the air here and have helped coordinate our coverage, and not a coverage, but our ability to be here. We could not have done that without those folks.
No, thank you.
We've got a minute and a half left here. Any last thoughts?
Stay safe. Race hard.
Stay dry.
Well, if you're in a tin top, yes.
Yeah.
But the Formula 500 and the Formula F drivers, that might be more difficult. But good luck to all of our racers. We've got over 500 of them here this weekend.
Yep.
Lots of family, lots of friends, lots of crew, and just want everybody to be safe and enjoy the Sports Car Club of America's premier event.
All right, let's take a look at today's schedule one last time. We've got this morning, that's Saturday's schedule. Let's go back to today's schedule. There we go. Formula 500 this morning, Touring 1. Formula F, Formula Ford, Formula F. We call it Formula F now because there are Honda engines in it. GT1 is our last race before lunch. Then we come back on during lunch with Inside the SCCA Halftime. Spec Racer Ford 3 is our first race after lunch, and that's going to be there. Super Touring Under, Touring 3, Formula X. That's what we're doing. And then right after the end of the day, Runoffs After Dark, we're going to do it here. For Gregg Ginsberg, I'm Brian Bielanski. Inside the SCCA, live from the Runoffs, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. It's time to go racing.